Get ready, racing fans! The most electrifying week in motorsports is back! October 6th to 11th, Oswego Speedway transforms into the Clay Palace, the ultimate battleground for Super Dirt Week. From the thrilling races to the electrifying atmosphere, it's more than a race. It's racing's biggest party. Don't miss out. Super Dirt Week 2025, October 6th through the 11th.
Hey, Dabo Swinney, congrats. I got you in, baby.
This is entertainment. People pay to watch this.
Pass to a cutting hill. He darts in.
Oh! People actually subscribe.
All across central New York.
Time expired! Syracuse has done it!
It's Drive Time with your host, Tim Leonard.
Hey, guess what? I'm getting one. Hey!
We welcome you into Drive Time. Here with you for the next hour, talking SU football, talking SU sports. If you're looking for the MLB playoffs that we rudely just cut off, if you want to hear more of ESPN Radio's coverage of the MLB playoffs, that's just moved over to our ESPN AM station. In fact, it's always on our ESPN AM station this week, the Wild Card Series. As we get into October officially, we've got all the Game 2s going on today, so we can discuss that as we roll along with our hour-long show today. We welcome you into Drive Time. Tim Leonard here with you. Going to talk Orange football. Going to talk Orange football with Adam Terry, as we always do on a Wednesday of a game week. Cuse taking on SMU on the road. We'll start to shift our attention a little bit towards that SMU matchup. We'll have a full scatter report on the Mustangs for you tomorrow on the show. But again, if you want the MLB playoffs, ESPN AM station. If you want Drive Time, you're in the right place. Get on in the Q Sports Talk chat on our Twitch stream. Get on in our YouTube chat as well. YouTube simulcast. And let's get the show rolling today by talking some Orange football. We begin today with our 5 things at 5, which today I'm going to run down the list of the 5 things that Syracuse football needs to improve on in the pretty much second half of the season at this point. We played 5 games of a potential 12 in the regular season. Bye week after SMU this Saturday will basically be the midway point. So the 5 things they need to improve on to make a bowl game. And we can talk throughout the show today. We welcome your phone calls, as phone lines are always open here on Drive Time. 315-437-7644. At some point, we'll play back my interview with Adam Terry, but phone lines are open throughout the show today for ESPN 44. If you have thoughts on things Syracuse needs to improve to make a bowl game, if you think there's no shot that the Orange make a bowl game, you can call in. If you think that we're all overreacting to the Duke game and this is still a 7 or an 8-win football team despite a daunting schedule and they're going to figure this out, you can call in and give us the half-full side of things as well. We always welcome the half-full side of things. But let's get it going today. Our 5 things that Syracuse football needs to do, needs to improve on, to make a bowl game.
Number 5.
We start the list by talking about the Orange pass rush, which to this point in the season has been up and down, but mostly down. And our number 5 thing on the 5 things that Syracuse football needs to improve on to make a bowl game, they need to generate more pressure on the quarterback. Just 8 pressures total in that entire Duke game. Some of that is Duke did not throw the football in the entire second half because they did not have to. But Syracuse had probably its best game defensively of the season against Clemson, where they did generate a lot of pressure on the quarterback. According to Pro Football Focus, they had 32 pressures in that game. And we talked about how the Orange were getting more and more pressures in every game this season. And then they got their fewest pressures of any game this year in what was a nightmare game on Saturday inside the Dome against Duke. Just 8 pressures isn't going to cut it. And the concerning thing right now, when you look at what Syracuse has done defensively, when they have played a good to great quarterback, which I would say they have played 2 of those to this point in the season. Syracuse has played 4 FBS teams. I don't think you feel great about Kate Klubnik right now, and I honestly feel like the more that we have seen Syracuse's defense against quarterbacks not named Kate Klubnik, and what we saw when they did go up against Kate Klubnik, Klubnik's just not really in a good spot. He's fighting demons, and that's partially why the Orange were able to get a lot of pressure on Clemson. But when they have gone up against Joey Aguilar, who's in the Heisman conversation right now, on the outskirts of it, but it's a wide open Heisman race, and is a good quarterback for Tennessee, Tennessee and Joey Aguilar kind of picked them apart. Then we saw another really good quarterback. I think one of the best in the league was inside the dome on Saturday for Duke, and Darian Mensah. He didn't have to do a ton in the game. He was kind of just a game manager because of how effective Duke was at running the football. But he kind of picked them apart. The rest of the schedule, there's a lot of good quarterbacks on it. There's a lot of good teams. There's a lot of tough games on the road. Kevin Jennings this week is getting healthier. I think he's a very solid quarterback when you consider where he stacks up in the ACC. We're going to see Eli Holstein after the bye week. He's a pretty good one, who did pretty well against the Orange last year before he got hurt, and then the Pittsburgh season went off the rails. He's young, but he's a talented guy, Alabama guy. You're talking Carson Beck, who is maybe the front runner right now for the Heisman, considered by some. You're talking Haynes King on the road. He might be right up there with Darian Mensah for best quarterbacks in the league. Haynes King of Georgia Tech. C.J. Carr of Notre Dame has looked better than I thought to this point. So that's just to name a few. Even BC's quarterback, Dylan Longren, another Alabama transfer. Bill O'Brien recruited him. Now he's up at BC. I think BC can move the ball pretty well. Their struggles have been on defense, which is kind of surprising. So they're going to face some good quarterbacks. And it's very concerning right now that when Syracuse has faced an above-average quarterback, the defense has struggled.
Number 4.
Number 4 on our list of 5 things Syracuse needs to improve to make a bowl game this season. They need the offense to be more run-focused. They got to get the ground game going, and it's easy to nitpick last week and look at the final box score. Jeff Nixon discussed this with the media last night. The offensive coordinator for the Orange said, look, the game flow did not allow us to run the football. We were behind the sticks in a lot of that game. Just to paraphrase him, they were way behind in the second half. So it's easy to say, why is Yasin Willis only getting 11 carries, 12 carries, whatever it was? You've got to find a way to not get behind the sticks and get the ground game going early on in this SMU game. And if you can keep it a close game, we have confidence that Syracuse can run the football effectively. And we'll talk about with Adam Terry, how much will the Orange change their offensive game plan after seeing one start of Ricky Collins? Will Jeff Nixon take a step back and reevaluate what he has? But it's very obvious Syracuse has to get the ground game going a little bit more. Fran Brown has said it. Jeff Nixon has mentioned it as well. They need to shift their focus from a very pass-heavy offense. They're still going to be pass-dominant because that's what you do in modern college football now, and that's going to be effective even if Ricky Collins is not as good as what we thought he was going to be. They can still throw the football because Jeff Nixon's offense gets playmakers in space and he gets wide receivers and pass catchers open. But they've got to find a way to establish the ground game and establish a little bit more balance on the offense.
Number 3.
Number 3 on our list. Top 5 things Syracuse football needs to improve on to make a bowl game. The defense has got to start generating some turnovers. Under Fran Brown, they have not generated a lot of turnovers defensively. They have just 6 this year. 3 of those came against the FCS opponent, Colgate. 2 against Clemson in one of their better games turnover-wise of the Fran Brown era, where they forced 2 turnovers, did not have a turnover against Clemson. They reversed that entirely against Duke. Coughed it up 3 times and did not get a takeaway against the Blue Devils. Their other turnover to get to 6 was that really easy one in week 1 against Tennessee where they struggled with the exchange. Joey Aguilar, the quarterback, handed it off to the running back. Ball was on the turf and an easy scoop up there for the Orange defense in the backfield. Right now, under Fran Brown, Syracuse is 5, 5, and 7 at winning the turnover battle. 5 times they've won it, 5 times they've lost it, 7 times they've tied. So pretty neutral. But when they do win the turnover battle, they are 5-0. At NC State last year, they dominated the turnover battle. At Cal last year, one of their better wins on the road, they dominated the turnover battle, did not turn it over once. Washington State in the bowl game, they had 2 forced turnovers, did not turn it over. Clemson on the road, and then Colgate this year, they did have 2 giveaways, but forced 3. They need to start forcing turnovers because now more than ever, you can tell that when the Syracuse defense is out on the field for a lot of the game, and when this young defense is asked to do a little bit too much, they're going to get worn down. And we're going to talk about this with Adam. It's going to be really hot down there in Dallas on Saturday. Forecast is around 90 degrees. Duke went up tempo knowing the ACC fined Syracuse for fake injuries, and they really couldn't fake any injuries or risk that the week after those fines came in. SMU's an explosive offense. We'll see if they lean into that as well, but Syracuse has to find a way to generate more turnovers.
Number 2.
The other thing we have to mention with the defense, they need much better gap integrity in the run game. The run defense is starting to look a little bit like it was last year and maybe worse based on what we saw in that Duke game. And I think we also have to give Duke credit. Duke's a better team than we probably envisioned. Duke has great skill players. They had great speed, and they had a good game plan. They made sure to throw it out to the perimeter, and kind of the game plan we talked about that Syracuse needed to do against Duke to force them, a team that had struggled to tackle, to make tough tackles in space. Well, Duke sort of flipped that on the Orange and said, we don't know if you can tackle, and we're going to get you out in space. And Duke's players talked about in the postgame afterwards, once they got to the second or the third level, they had scouted that Syracuse was very vulnerable at tackling in the secondary, and that really showed itself in how the Orange defense played and how they tackled in the secondary. The secondary got young quick. Devin Grant was not 100%. He didn't really play in the second half. Juice Chestnut hardly played outside of third downs. The secondary was a lot of young guys that were struggling to tackle, and also just the nature of once Duke got through the line, it felt like no one was there. So some of this is Syracuse does not have the right personnel. But some of it is they are not establishing the gap integrity they need. They're not taking the angles they need on these tackles, and they're making things tough on themselves.
Number 1.
Our top thing that Syracuse needs to improve on to make a bowl game in the year 2025, it goes back to the quarterback position, and really the biggest thing that comes to mind with Ricky Collins, he needs to avoid turnovers. He had the interception. He had the fumble. We joked on Orange Nation, Paulie's keys to the game, which he's always kind of goofy with those, was Ricky, don't lose that ball. Instead of Ricky, don't lose that number. Ricky, don't lose that ball. Well, he just put the ball on the ground once, which is stuff that happens. Some of the weird things like that happen when it is your first start. You can't have that happen going forward now. And I don't really expect that weird stuff to happen. I think this was just a nightmare game for Syracuse, and they're going to play better offensively. I have confidence in Jeff Nixon. I have confidence in Fran Brown that they will figure this thing out offensively. And Ricky Collins, even chatting with him a little bit last night, he understands that they went and they had to figure out the root of the problem, and he's confident that they are going to get back on the right track, which I know some of you are saying, well, of course he's confident. We'll see what happens when he gets out there against SMU, sellout crowd, and the train starts moving off the tracks again. Can they recover? I think it'll be a much better offensive performance this weekend. But Syracuse has already turned the ball over 9 times this year. That is last in the ACC, 120th in the country. They had 15 turnovers all of last year, and 5 of those, remember, were in one game against Pittsburgh. 3 turnovers against Duke was the second most in a game in the Fran Brown era, only behind the Pittsburgh game. We're seeing that Syracuse is facing some good defensive lines to this point in the season, and the pressure on the quarterback is leading to turnovers. Ricky Collins, the big concern, the big thing we talked about that maybe held him back from winning the job in the first place from Steve Angeli was turnovers. They've just got to be much smarter with the football. Complementary football is something that Fran Brown is always talking about, and they have to find a way to start to get the turnover battle to look better. You think about how much turnovers swing football games, even that 2018 season for Syracuse where they had a great team. We were chatting about it in the Q Sports Talk chat yesterday. They were lucky turnovers-wise in that season, and that was a big part of why they were successful. Right now, Syracuse has not been good at winning the turnover battles. They have not generated enough turnovers on defense, and they have not taken care of the ball enough on offense. So our 5 things, if you missed any of them, that Syracuse needs to improve on to make a bowl game. Number 5, they need to generate more pressure on the quarterback. Number 4, they need a more run-focused offense. Number 3, the defense needs to generate more turnovers. Number 2, they need better gap integrity in the run game. And number 1, Ricky needs to take care of the ball more. Those are our 5 things. If you agree, if you disagree, if you have thoughts on the chances of the Orange bouncing back against SMU, if you have thoughts on the chances of them making a bowl game, you can call in right now at 315-437-7644. Adam Terry coming up in a little bit as well. Stay with us here on Drive Time on ESPN Radio.
Point Guard Advisor.
What's up, chat? I think that's an overreaction, Alex. Not even getting to 17. I mean, think about it. They did not average, or they did not have less than 24 points in a game except for the Pittsburgh game and the Duke game in this entire time. And I know you're going to say it's the quarterback, but you'd have to think that, one, it's either going to be one of the two things. One, the quarterback will improve, which he's going to improve. The question is, how much can he improve? And I get that if you're down on those chances, then it could be the second thing, which is they've got one of the best offensive coordinators in the country, and he will find a way to play to their strengths and make it so that Ricky Collins is not asked to do as much as Steve Angeli or Kyle McCord were asked to do. Super Cat, Crochet was incredible. I don't know if I like the Red Sox chances tonight, though. I think I said that last night on the show. Who was asking me, like, what's my pick? And I thought the Red Sox will win last night. It seems like already, even the Padres, not to jinx Paulie, but it seems like we're going to get some game 3s. I would expect the Yankees to win tonight. Yeah, Padres up 3-0. Good to get some game 3s. There hasn't been enough in the recent history. Yeah, Super Cat. I was trying to jinx him, right? Reverse jinx, as they say. You guys think Boone should have kept Freed in there? I think the bigger issue is the Yankees don't have a bullpen. You got to have someone you can trust to go to if it's only 2 guys there. And I don't think Jazz should have been up at the end of the game. That was pretty bad. Yeah, Weaver, he was really good in the postseason last year, too. Well, I wonder what is the team total over-under for Syracuse? I guess we could calculate. What's the over-under in this game? Let's see. I can never find the odds because we're in New York. Over-under 58.5, and they're 16.5-point underdogs. So, math is tough. They're calling for, like, 20-ish points from Syracuse, right? I guess the spread's now 17.5 according to this ESPN bet.
ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on CuseSportsTalk.com.
We roll along with Drive Time. Tim Leonard with you until the top of the hour. Yankees baseball tonight, Game 2 of this playoff wildcard series against the Red Sox. You can listen to that on TK99. 99.5 TK99 app. ESPN app if you want to listen to the MLB playoffs right now. ESPN AM station is carrying the conclusion of the Padres-Cubs game currently. Padres ahead 3-0. Looks like we're going to get some Game 3s after, in the first 3 years of the MLB going to this expanded playoff format, there have been 12 total wild card 3-game series, and only 2 of them have gone the distance. Only 2 of them have not been sweeps. In the first 3 years, we already got one because the Guardians did get the win today over the Tigers 6-1. Tigers left a ton of runners on base. And the Guardians and Tigers will be playing tomorrow for a decisive Game 3. The Padres trying to force a Game 3 as they lost yesterday. They're ahead of the Cubs in Wrigley, 3-0 right now. You can listen to that on our ESPN AM station. If you have thoughts throughout the show today, you can call in and talk MLB playoffs, Syracuse football, whatever is on your mind. 315-437-7644. Right now, though, let's play back our conversation from earlier today with our guy, Adam Terry, who is always on the call of the Syracuse football broadcast on Learfield with the crew, with me, Matt Park, Paulie on the engineer side of things. So let's get you my combo with Adam as we always chat with him every single Wednesday here on Drive Time. Time for our weekly conversation with Adam Terry as we get you ready for Syracuse and SMU, a Saturday 3:30 kick on the Eastern time zone down in Dallas. And Adam will be on the call, as always, for the Syracuse Sports Network from Learfield. Let's first put to bed the Duke game, Adam, which was a one that you want to forget. Unfortunately, from the start, just felt like kind of the Pittsburgh game last year in a way. And I guess that's the hope here, that it was just one fluky game and you have faith in Fran Brown to right the ship this week.
Yeah, no, I think, when you look back on it, you referenced in, putting it to bed, that was a little bit of a nightmare, but it was one that just got away, right? Just like you're saying, when we look at the Pittsburgh game and how Kyle McCord with all the interceptions, you just got to put it to bed, move to the next game, and get prepared. You can't let this game, and it wasn't a great game by any stretch of the imagination, but you can't let this game lose you 2 more. And luckily for Syracuse, they've got this week and then a bye week, so you have the opportunity to get Ricky Collins to where you believe he can be. And I also think that we saw the progression with Steve Angeli at the beginning of the season and saw from week 1 to week 4 how drastically different he looked as a quarterback. And now that you're back at the helm, as Ricky Collins is back at the helm, getting all of those reps during practice, hopefully we see that distinct change week by week.
A lot of the comments this week, Adam, from the coaching staff, from Fran Brown, Jeff Nixon, have been sort of supporting Ricky Collins, defending him. And I know that a lot of the fan base just assumes that this is going to be the offense the rest of the season, and they're hitting the panic button over what they saw and the drop-off at the quarterback position. I guess I'll ask you to start out, how much of it was a drop-off at the quarterback position, and how much of it was just bad complimentary football, special teams backing him up, and it was a wave of things it felt like that went against Ricky Collins and put him in a tough position to succeed in his first start?
Well, it's hard to go in with your first start and win a football game at the quarterback position, especially with a rebounding Duke team that is now starting to establish themselves as a pretty good football team. The lack of complimentary football, right? Defense did not do very well, right? In defense, they got run over quite extensively, and that seems to be a recurring theme. When that defense breaks down, I should say, it becomes a recurring theme of not being able to stop the run. When they do that, I think they can play with anybody in the country. But you look at someone needs to step up in that role, whether that's the defense, they bull their neck, they get more opportunities back to Ricky Collins, and then Ricky and the offense just need to find out who they are. Right, I think with Jeff Nixon, I'm always singing his praises, and they did not do well offensively. But it's also figuring out who you have personnel-wise, what they're capable of doing. It seemed as though you saw a lot of throws towards stationary people, and when I say stationary people, no deep balls down the sideline, nothing really threatening. And I'll have to go back and look at that statistically. But, I feel as though you got to gear up the run game a little bit, take the pressure off the quarterback. When they start to load the box, now you can get the ball behind them. He's not Steve Angeli, and he's not a Kyle McCord. But who is Ricky Collins? And that's what I want to see, right? I don't think we pigeonhole anybody into who they are. They play like so-and-so. What I would like to see is, who is Ricky Collins when he is successful? What is he doing? Is it the short throws? Is it the mesh concept? Is it just throwing the ball down the field, down the sideline? Who is he? Can he make every throw? I assume he can make every throw. But then what's the comfort level of that individual athlete?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting how much the game plan or the playbook looks different this week. You mentioned it's a bye after this game. I guess, how much are you expecting them to lean into the ground game or look different offensively this week, knowing that it is still just Ricky's second start? And like we said, there were a lot of things working against Ricky in that last start. Are they ready at this point after seeing the first start to change the playbook? And maybe there's something to be said for you can try and catch SMU a little bit off guard and give them something that hasn't really been on film yet?
Well, it's a sticky situation because you've got a quarterback without a lot of experience, and then two, you're going to go into a hostile environment. So snap count, communication is going to come into play whether you have a veteran quarterback or you don't, right? And making sure that everyone is on the same page, to me, is paramount, especially on the offensive line. And then from there, you have to eliminate pre-snap penalties and alignment penalties, which I think we're getting better at. And then from there, now you can start to look at the quarterback and say, okay, what is going to be most successful to him? And I think we've got two great backs in Yasin Willis and Will Nixon. And how does that complement? Can we get the ball out into space? Are we distributing the ball a little bit differently than what we have? So I guess the biggest thing for me is, yes, everybody wants to see a difference in what Ricky Collins is doing, but then also let's not deviate so far with what we've started to see as the success of that offense, and then also, too, that success of the offensive line and how they have progressed week by week. So you're starting to see more guys into the rotation, which then allows for more flux when you've got a wide receiver who might not be in there all the time and may have only gotten one rep. So I think as much as you would love to say, hey, it's the Ricky Collins show as far as the passing, so on and so forth, you also have to look at what are the strengths of the team going into this week, going into a hostile environment.
Adam Terry is with us, getting you ready for Syracuse at SMU on Saturday. He'll be on the call for the Syracuse Sports Network from Learfields. So it feels like we've had both extremes here in the last 2 weeks. The fan base jumped all in on Fran Brown and extend this guy right away off the Clemson game, and there was a big high, one of the better performances of the Fran era. Then you turn it around, and now it feels like the fan base is ready, not all of the fan base, but a collection of the fan base is ready to say, oh, they're not going to win more than one more game the rest of the year. No shot they make a bowl, all that. And that's just how sports goes. It changes drastically. We saw it in terms of how we viewed the team when they played UConn versus how we viewed the team in the first half against Clemson and pre the Steve Angeli injury. What would you say to the collection of the fan base? Not saying it's everyone, but I think there is a portion of the fan base that thinks this is kind of a lost season now, and let's just get ready for next year. What would you say to those fans after this one bad performance against Duke?
Fran Brown does not listen to the fan base in that regard, right?
Yep.
So I feel as though, yeah, you got to close the doors and you have to let the voice be from the top down, and that is, Fran Brown. Yes, guys are going to be on campus and they're going to be hearing it, and they might hear it from their cousin or their uncle or their eighth sister removed, whatever that is, and you're just in a situation where you have to silence the outside and listen to the internal voices and make sure that everyone is on the same page while they're doing this. And as far as the fan base, look, I got a lot of texts from people that I played with or people that I know and said, hey, the sky is falling, but I do believe that they will right this ship in order to make it competitive. Now, are they going to win every game the rest of the season? I don't believe that to be true, but if you were to tell me 3-2 coming into this week and then going into a bye week, I feel good about that, right? And yes, we didn't think the Clemson would necessarily be a win, and that, and the other thing, but you're looking at the schedule looking forward. SMU is beatable, right? You just can't have either stupid penalties or put the ball on the ground. You need to be positive in the turnover battle because this team is explosive that they're playing against SMU. And then you look down that list of people and, you're looking at a UNC game and you're looking at a Pitt, you're looking at Boston College. Like, to me, those are winnable games.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go play those upper echelon teams, in a Notre Dame and a Miami. But that's where you need to go out and play, right? So for me, you're progressively getting better incrementally over this linear span to the end of the season. And look, we've got a lot of young guys that are progressing each week. We don't know who's going to be a superstar out there. And I like the progression of a lot of the young guys. When you look at guys on the offensive line, Byron Washington, he mauls people.
Yeah.
Right? Once he gets comfortable, he's going to be, I know Fran has said a top 10 draft pick. I think he's going to be a good player, and the sky's the limit, especially with that frame. Then you look in the secondary, we got young really, really quick when Devin Grant and Deuce Chestnut go down, or Deuce was not in there as often. You get young really quick, and there were a couple missed tackles in that back end, right? Now you're getting older, you've got more games under your belt, you start to get the nuances of that, a little bit of that wily vet that can go in there and do that, and then those are the big things. And we really haven't seen that big splash in the special teams yet. And I feel as though there's going to be something in our favor as a big splash in the special teams game as well.
Yeah, we know we can count on Jack Stonehouse anytime he's punting. He has been terrific to this point in the season. I guess when you evaluate the defense, Adam, and we've talked about it, there was missed tackles, and the defense needs to get better. Everyone's in agreement on that. What was Duke doing that was maybe different from what other teams were doing to Syracuse? And is there anything that you feel like Duke was doing that other teams might pick up on and incorporate into their game plan?
Offensively or defensively?
What was Duke doing offensively against the Orange's defense?
Yeah, they found a running back, right? And explosive. And you go into this week against SMU and you look at a guy like TJ Harden and what he's capable of doing and how he rushes the football, 5 touchdowns on the year. He's not averaging this, 100 plus, but he is physical. Like if you come to meet him in the hole, you better bring your whole body and a little bit of will in order to bring him to the ground, because there are a couple things on film. When you hit him in the hole, he does bounce off, and he has that speed and change of direction as soon as he can get out of there. So the good thing about this is it a little bit plays into Syracuse's favor with the style of offense that they have, right? They're not big maulers up front, and they're not going to try to go into 6-7 guys on the line of scrimmage to try to maul you. At least I haven't seen that yet. What this plays into the favor of is the ability to have the athleticism in the back end, usually 3 wide, 1 tight end, 4 wide. So that plays a little bit more into our favor in the scheme of what it is. It's just a matter of what I saw a little bit offensively that they were doing is creating a mismatch with Antoine Delorier when he was in coverage.
Yeah.
And whether that was, I believe, Taquan Johnson running some routes or matching up against the running backs and getting them out in space as well. So Syracuse just has to be aware of that. I think they'll address it how they need to address it. But to me, when you look at what SMU does and how they run, you got to look at the Duke film, but also too, I don't think they're going to load it up or line it up as much as Duke did. And when I mean that, it's probably 1 or 2 guys removed from the box.
Okay, gotcha. What else stands out about SMU? They're 2-2 on the season, 2 losses to Big 12 competition. They still haven't lost a regular season ACC game because this will be their ACC opener, and they ran the slate last year, albeit a pretty easy schedule before they lost in the ACC championship game to Clemson. But this is a good SMU program. They've got a lot of money down there. They're getting some talented guys. We'll see Marcellus Barnes at the cornerback position. What do you make of what they're going to be going up against in SMU?
Well, a lot of money is an understatement when you raise $100 million in 7 days after you commit to the ACC. I mean, that's pretty significant. You look at Kevin Jennings and what he's capable of doing at the quarterback position. He's a guy with some speed and can throw the ball around. And, the primary recipient on the outside is going to be Romello Brinson. And then the guy in the backfield is TJ Harden. So, where this ball is going. But also with Kevin Jennings as well, he's thrown interceptions. He's averaging at least 1 interception per game. And for Syracuse, they just can't go. They have to be plus at the end of the day, not negative. And that's going to be a little bit of Johnny on the spot, being at the right place in the right time, and then offensively making sure that we don't put the ball on the ground. So a lot of the little things that you always talk about hold true, minimize penalties, win time of possession, and then, win the turnover battle.
Yeah, the Orange are 5-0 when they win the turnover battle under Fran Brown. So that'll be something we're always monitoring, including this week against SMU. It'll be a road game for the Cuse down in Dallas, and Adam will be on the call with Matt Park on the Syracuse Sports Network from Learfield. We appreciate the time, Adam, and we'll chat with you on Saturday.
Yeah, no. And Tim, one more thing on that, I think the heat is going to play a factor, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be in the 90s down there. That is something that when I saw it, my eyes bugged out a little bit. Now I got to pack some shorts for Friday. But, I think that is going to be one of the things as well. And it'll be exciting to see how it goes.
Well, and on that note, Duke was clearly running some up-tempo on Syracuse. We noticed that right away, right? That was more up-tempo than we were expecting maybe from Duke, and I think they did that for a reason, right?
They went up-tempo and went aggressive, and I think SMU can and will do the same thing, especially in the heat. And, I think one of the things that we have to look at is a little bit of that thinness at the linebacker level that Syracuse really just has to be on top of.
Yeah. No, it's a good point, for sure. All right, Adam, we'll let you go. Enjoy the game on Saturday. Enjoy the game in shorts on Saturday, I guess, and we'll talk with you soon.
No, I don't get shorts on Saturday. All right.
Adam's going to be wearing the shorts on Friday. Then on Saturday, he'll be dressed up to the nines for calling the game. But we appreciate Adam Terry's time. It is going to be a hot one down in Dallas on Saturday. That will play a factor for sure. Good point by him. Phone lines are open the rest of the show today at 315-437-7644. When we return, we'll talk about the chances of Syracuse making a bowl game this year. You're listening to Drive Time on ESPN Radio.
This is Orange Nation.
91 in Dallas today. That is hot. Saturday, high of 90, low of 68. And they're playing right in the middle of the day, 2:30 their time. Winds 5 to 10 miles per hour, just a 1% chance of rain. And that's your weather on the ones from Dallas in 4 days. We took a lot of calls on Moden yesterday, Jen. I don't know if you were listening yesterday, and then, of course, a lot of people called into Orange Nation, so not trying to ignore it or anything, but we tried to pay tribute to him as much as possible. That was a tough one. I don't know, Dom. I mean, the thing about the players wearing stuff, I worry, maybe not worry is the right word, but you wonder they're always going to wear whatever's comfortable to them. And you just feel like it's kind of a player decision. And I don't know how much the players knew Lawrence Moden outside of like those that obviously got deep in the history of Syracuse. But yeah, I think definitely a next home game, which would be Pitt on the 18th. They got to do something because you don't have a basketball game before that. You've got to make mention of it at the next big home event for sure. I think, yeah, the Fly Guy, the basketball team, I would love to see them do the jersey number on the patch at the very least, or people have brought up the black socks. That'd be really cool, I think. Exhibition game maybe. That's Buffalo on the 25th. That's the first time we really see them. I think it'd be cool if they came out with the black socks, but we'll see. Yeah, but shout out to some of you that mentioned it was a good show today. Those are tough shows to do, but it helps a lot that we got. First off, you got to thank like Ryan Blackwell coming on when. I mean, this was a really tough one for anyone that knew Lawrence Moden because, as Boeheim said, who, of course, him coming on was amazing, just considering how soon it was. But he also mentioned that it was such a surprise. I mean, that's what makes this one really tough for everyone that knew him. So I appreciate you guys listening, and it's tough because those are hard things to talk about. You want to get people on to pay tribute to it, but you also don't want people to grieve or interrupt how they're grieving. You want, like Steve, I think handled it really well. Coach Bam, you could tell was getting really choked up, and that was the right thing to do, to just let him go and thank him for giving us his time. $21 on the unis. Yeah, 21 on the court, maybe, for the year. That's be cool. That's true, Kev. If they just have actual cramps, then hopefully that's not perceived to be fake. Unfortunately, I think no-brainer for Tiana to be on a jersey patch, her number on the women's basketball team's jerseys, and then no-brainer for Moden. I mean, I know you don't want that to happen, but I think right now we're looking at two players that definitely deserve to be honored. Preston Shumpert? Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Welcome back into Drive Time. Tim Leonard with you until right around the top of the hour tonight. Talking SU Sports. Phone lines are open the rest of the show at 315-437-7644. MLB playoffs will resume. TK99 for the Yankees game right around the top of the hour. Yankees-Red Sox tonight. We can talk about that in our final segment. But getting back on time here after spending a good amount of time chatting with Adam Terry, which is always good to get his thoughts on Orange football. We ran a poll earlier today on our Cuse Sports Talk page asking the question of how many games will Syracuse football win in the regular season this year. Right now, the Orange, of course, 3-2 on the year, which is what we expected them to be, I think. That's what the odds were saying they would be at this point. You didn't think they'd get a win over Clemson and lose to Duke to get there. But we put up the 4 options: 4 wins or less, 5 wins, 6 wins, or 7 or more wins. The winner was 6 wins. 41.5% voted that Syracuse would finish the regular season with 6 wins. 26% roughly had the Orange at 5 wins. That was second most. 4 or less was third most with 17%, and then 7 or more just 16%. So you compare that to what I could find in terms of the computer simulations right now. Kelly Ford Ratings has a model on kellyford.com where they project every game remaining on the schedule based on how efficient you have been on offense, defense, your special teams, and what your overall ranking is. And should note, Syracuse really saw a big drop-off in this model from last week. Before the Duke game, the Orange had an 87% chance to make a bowl game. They were projected 6.8 wins on this model. Going into this SMU game, after really falling off, they had one of the worst performances overall in the Kelly Ford metrics of anyone in the country in terms of the individual game last week. They are now projected 5.4 wins. So essentially, what that is telling us is if Vegas reset the over-under right now, it would probably be the same as when Vegas set the over-under in the preseason. It was 5.5 as the over-under to begin the year. Right now, Kelly Ford's ratings have the Orange projected 5.4 wins. Syracuse is going to be essentially favored right now in 2 games the rest of the way. That is the UNC game at home, where they have the best odds of winning of any of the remaining opponents, a 74% chance according to this model. BC at home, they have a 66% chance. They're going to be major road underdogs in 4 games, probably double-digit road underdogs in all 4 remaining road games, including this week. We already know they are 17.5-point dogs to SMU. Kelly Ford's model gives them a 22% chance of winning this week. Georgia Tech on the road, Miami on the road, ND on the road, Notre Dame, all big road underdogs. And then you've got one game that Paulie would like to say as a tossy-uppy game. That is Pittsburgh right now at home, off the bye week, which is nice. Good timing. 50% chance right now that they win that game. Truly a tossy-uppy game. So the model on Kelly Ford's site, this is the chances that the Orange get to X amount of wins. So not that they finish with this many wins, but the chances they get to X amount of wins. We mentioned chances of making a bowl was 87% going into the Duke game last week. Now that has dropped significantly to 46%. Chances of getting one more win and getting to at least 4 wins is 97% for the Orange. Chances of getting to 5 wins based on the schedule they have left, or at least 5 wins, is 81%. Pretty good chance. 6 wins to get to a bowl, 46%. 7 wins, 15%. And if they were to get to 8 wins, they're giving Syracuse just a 2% chance right now. If I were to redo my projection, I think I would say 5 wins right now. I had them going 6-6. I had them starting out 3-2, but I also had Steve Angeli as the quarterback and was expecting more from what we saw at the quarterback position in the first game from Ricky Collins than we got. I still think I'm not on the side that this is time to panic and this is a lost season. it is still very important for Syracuse to get as many wins as possible. And if that is 5 wins, if that is 6 wins, if that is 7 wins, every win matters for Fran Brown as he tries to build the program here. My guess right now is I would lean with what this model is saying and say 5 wins is the most likely outcome. But that's kind of the fun thing about this is if Syracuse plays well against SMU, the model's going to flip completely, and we'll have another conversation next week about how different we are thinking about this football team. That is still within the realm of possibility. Remember, Fran Brown has never lost back-to-back games. They've been very good at coming out of losses and playing very well the next week. So we'll see if that will be the case this week. This is certainly a different type of test, and that whole argument, that whole theory is really being put to the test. We'll hit our final break here on Drive Time. Talk a little bit about the Yankees and the Red Sox, what we're expecting tonight in Game 2. That game gets going on TK99 right around the top of the hour. We're back after this.
This Saturday.
Not a fan of Rich Eisen? I think we're in agreement, Phillies most wanted. I think there was a good line set by Vegas, right? What did you say earlier? There was something when I was talking to Adam. I can't scroll up because chat won't let me. Yeah, Fly Guy, I'm just scrolling back up to your... Let's not forget Ricky was the guy and all the talk before Angeli came in, so he can't be that bad, can he? I would agree. I know you could also flip it on the head and say, well, Trevor Pena left for a reason. Phillies most wanted, when you said earlier it's not a lost season, but it's always been a developmental season where results don't matter as much. I don't really disagree with that. The only thing I'd say to that is, how were you feeling at halftime of the Clemson game when Steve Angeli was still healthy? Because I think, if we're being honest, at that point we were starting to talk about this could be a season to remember where maybe they could get to 7 or 8 wins. So I think our opinion on, we always knew this was a developmental year, changed a lot based on the quarterback injury, of course. Yeah, this will be a good test against SMU. You just want to be competitive here. You don't want to get dusted again and have to, really have the wind taken out of your sails. Fly Guy, we are on every afternoon, 5 to 6. That's fair bowling ball, 4 wins. You thought it was still a long shot miracle of a 7-5 season? What'd you have them winning at the start? Yeah, 6 wins would be a successful year, especially when you consider the backup. But like we said going into the Duke game, I'm not wavering too much from, I really thought Ricky would play better against Duke, like I'm sure a lot of you did. And I'm not going to totally resign to the fact, I think Ricky will get better and can get a lot better, of course. 5-7, yep.
Well, they blew up the chicken man in Philly last night. Now they blew up his...
Wrapping up the show this afternoon. Drive Time with Tim Leonard. New-ish show. We've been rolling since September 1st, Labor Day, but keep us in mind, 5 to 6 p.m. every afternoon, every weekday afternoon going forward. You can always watch back our shows, QSportsTalk.com, Cuse Sports Talk on our YouTube page as well. Highly recommend, if any of you missed it, go to our YouTube page and check out the Jim Boeheim interview from Orange Nation earlier today. Very emotional, Coach Boeheim, and it's kind of a hard listen because I've never really heard Coach Boeheim that emotional before, but we had him on, of course, to honor Lawrence Moten, pay tribute to Lawrence Moten, and we can't thank him enough for coming on today. Very difficult day for him and difficult for him to talk about Lawrence Moten when it is still very fresh. We thank a lot of you for the nice words on how Orange Nation went today. We had Ryan Blackwell on as well, and you can catch that full interview on our YouTube page as well. So, tough times right now in Syracuse, and it just feels like we've been doing this too much. We were honoring Tiana Mungakahia not that long ago after she passed away far too soon at 30 years old. Lawrence Moten was 53 when he passed away yesterday, but we appreciate Coach Boeheim, Ryan Blackwell coming on. Also heard from Mike Waters yesterday on my show, and trying to do what we can to remember an all-time Syracuse great. And that's something that really stands out from what Coach Boeheim said earlier today. He said he wanted to come on, and I think he was hesitant to come on because he knew that this is still a very emotional thing for him, and he has not obviously gotten over this yet. And you could tell that he was struggling to get through his thoughts at times because of how emotional he was. But he said he really wanted to come on because he just wanted to get the point across that he is one of the more underappreciated players in the history of college basketball and, of course, in Syracuse history. And it was great to hear from Coach Boeheim earlier today on Orange Nation. You can listen to that as well on our podcast platforms, too. Coming up on TK99 is the Yankees game. Yankees-Red Sox in the playoffs. Must win for the Yankees or their season is over. And I do think the Yankees are going to get the win tonight. Carlos Rodon is on the mound for the Yankees going against Brian Bayo of the Red Sox. Very fun game to watch. Very classic Red Sox-Yankees game last night. It felt right to watch that. You can quibble with Aaron Boone's managerial decisions last night. Jazz Chisholm is in the lineup tonight, and we'll see what the Yankees have as they're in a must-win situation. And I do think they are going to win tonight. They're minus 185 to win the game on ESPN Bet. They have the better pitching matchup for the last two games. Of course, the caveat there is Cam Slittler, who has been really good, has not faced Boston. And if it gets to a game 3 and it's Cam Slittler, he's a Massachusetts native that has never played the Red Sox. His first time doing it will be in his rookie season in a win-or-go-home decisive game in the postseason at Yankee Stadium. That would be quite the stage for the youngster, and it's hard to imagine how he will handle that and the nerves that he will be feeling. But outside of the obvious nerves that'll come for a rookie that has never pitched in the postseason, Cam Slittler's a better pitcher than anyone Boston's going to throw out in Game 3 on paper, and Boston might even be going to a bullpen game because Lucas Giolito is out for the postseason. He was going to be their third starter. So as much as Game 1 did not go well, I expected the Yankees to lose last night. I think they'll bounce back and win tonight, and then you're talking about them probably being the favorites in a Game 3 as well. Padres trying to force a Game 3 right now, too. They've been ahead of that game after a Manny Machado homer. You can always listen to the playoffs on our ESPN AM station this week, except for the Yankees games. Those will be on TK99. So go listen to that as first pitch is coming up in about 8 minutes. We thank you for listening to Drive Time, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on ESPN Radio and QSportsTalk.com.
Did you miss Drive Time with